Moffat, Moffat, burning bright in the forest of the night. Exceptionally bright. Another good episode, maybe a great one. A few issues, but Series 8 is still going strong as we round the turn and head to the series finale next week. Episode 10, In the Forest of the Night, written by Frank Cottrell Boyce, directed by Sheree Folkson. These are both new to the franchise and both excellent. Spoilers ahead. Frank Cottrell Boyce, you may not place the name, but I'm sure you've seen his work. The odds are very high. He wrote one of the highest-rated global television programs in the history of the world. At least the English-speaking world. Haven't checked everywhere. He wrote the opening ceremony of the London Olympics in 2012. It set ratings records for the BBC in the UK, for NBC in the US, for CTV in Canada, even had respectable ratings in Australia, where it was shown at dawn. Lifelong fan of Doctor Who, Cottrell Boyce jumped at Stephen Moffat's invitation to write an episode, and he jumped high. His story, In the Forest of the Night, is both a departure and a continuation. Departure? Well, the monster of the week is trees. Some monster. They don't speak, they don't have a catchphrase, they don't have a funny voice, and their acting is rather wooden. Yeah, I went there. I love it when people bring new things to the show. Actually, not simply trees, a forest, a world-blanketing forest sprung up overnight. That is one big monster. By size and weight, maybe it's the biggest monster the Doctor has ever faced. I'm trying to imagine the pitch meeting. Okay, here's my idea. Suddenly, overnight, the world is overrun by trees. The whole world, the entire planet. Well, the land anyway. Giant forest everywhere. You go to sleep in the city, you wake up in a forest. Go to sleep on a farm, you wake up in a forest. Go to sleep in a forest, well, nobody goes to sleep in a forest. But what do you think? Huh? Yeah, well, that's cool. That's a very cool idea. But, you know, this is television. This is BBC, Wales. We can't give you a budget anywhere near close to what you had for Isles of Wonder. You think a little smaller. No, not a problem. Look, we'll just use newscasts. Blah, 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 big forest in 4 different languages. We're home. Can't afford languages, we can use accents. And maybe do a relatively cheap CG of the Earth from space. No, not that cheap. I don't know. I still don't think we can afford it. Okay, look. I can write it so the action never leaves a few small square blocks in the middle of London. And we'll use kids instead of stars. They can't cost much. Middle of London? That will cost us a fortune in extras. No, not at all. Just because we're in a prime tourist attraction in the heart of a bustling world capital of 8 million inhabitants doesn't mean anybody has to actually go out into the streets to look at the trees or take a stroll or do some kind of mass panic event. Attention, people of London! Please remain in your homes. We are operating this morning under strict and limited budget constraints. Please do not appear on camera. Thank you for your kind cooperation. There is a good service on all lines. Okay, we'll do it, but no dancing nurses. Actually, it was all really ingenious, and the production had a very rich look for being done on the relative cheap. And I'm going to stop making fun of it because I liked it. I liked it a lot. It was so smart, starting with the pre-title cold opening. I think it's masterful the way Cottrell, Boyce, and Folkson lead us step by step to reveal their premise, that modern London, indeed the whole planet, is now a forest. We see a little girl in a red hooded jacket running through a forest to find the TARDIS. Quick series of shots lays so much groundwork, so economically. The forest, her strange gestures, sunlight. There's always sunlight in this forest. Despite the title, Forest of the Night, the sun is always present. And all that before she even gets to the TARDIS. She has to see the Doctor. Now that's intriguing. By the way, how many of you see a little girl in the woods in a red jacket with a hood, think, wolf, there's gonna be a wolf? How many of you were surprised when the wolf actually showed up? Surprised. Well, I'm colorblind, and the bright red didn't really register the way it should. Knocks on the TARDIS door. I'm lost. I'm looking for the Doctor. You need an appointment to see the Doctor. Oh, good. There's going to be jokes. And we are off. Charming dialogue between the girl and the Doctor. Here's the dirty little secret about this so-called Dark Doctor, this gruff doctor played by Peter Capaldi. He has a delightfully light touch and charm. He's funny without being goofy, without clowning, and he's good with kids. He does something so important with kids. Well, with actors of any age. Well, with people. He listens to them, and that slight tilt of the head when he invites the girl into the TARDIS. Peter Capaldi can do so much by doing just so little. Director Sheree Folkson made wonderful choices in staging the scene. I love the camera dollying back around the upper ring of the TARDIS as the little girl tries to keep up with the Doctor. And kudos for yet another new version of the bigger on the inside joke. Not just new, but one that actually helps express the character of this little girl. Exposition always has the potential to be a quagmire, but Cottrell, Boyce, and Folkson handle it deftly. They make it fun and funny. We get the whole picture before the credits run. She's a student of Clara's and Danny Pink's. The kids are on an outing. The kids are sure the two teachers are madly in love with each other. The doctor is still contemptuous of Danny, still insists he's a PE teacher, not a maths teacher. We even get a reminder that the doctor is a Time Lord, the last of his kind, and of course we learn that all of London is now a forest. It's all in there. And to seal it off, the CG shot that reveals our first aerial view of the new Forest of London from atop Nelson's column in Trafalgar Square. Wonderful camera move. Roll titles. After the titles, things I love. The first phone call between the doctor and Clara. It's a delicious joke fest. No, I'm not going to spoil the jokes, but they're good. I love it when the doctor asks the little girl her name, and I love the way that is shot. We learn that the girl is called Maebh. She is attuned to what's happening in ways that neither we nor the doctor nor Maebh herself completely understand. There follows, after that phone call, a scene between Danny and Clara with the kids looking on, listening and commenting. I said earlier this episode was in some ways a departure and in some ways a continuation. Well, the Danny and Clara scene definitely falls under continuation. It continues and advances their season-long story. Clara's lies are now exposed, and Danny has to cope with the news that she's been, well, cheating. She's traveling on the TARDIS, traveling with the doctor, even when she told him she was giving it up. Oh. As Danny, Clara, and the children venture into the new strange forest, the rest of the episode is set up for us. The children, more observant of what's happening than the adults who are caught up in their own issues. It's the kids who notice odd things about this new forest that become clues to solving its mystery. And we see Clara as the inquisitive adventurer, intellectually curious, eager to get back to the doctor. Danny, the nurturing caregiver, he's concerned with how to get the kids back home to their parents, wary that the doctor has one of his students. These differences between Clara and Danny are so clearly and economically portrayed, and then pretty much everything in the episode plays out from the dynamics of that one scene. This is good writing. As I said, the jokes are good, but more than that, the structure is good. The characters are consistent. I'll confess, when I saw the trailer and realized this is going to be an episode with kiddies, I got a little nervous. But the children are written well, they're cast well, they perform well, and they're differentiated individuals. They're not just stereotypes. So here's what happens in the various nesting stories. We have the monster of the week, the trees, and I love how Maebh helps the doctor discern their true purpose. When you have trouble seeing the forest for the trees, call Maebh. Maebh has shown odd behavior for a year since her older sister disappeared. She's being medicated for it. The doctor says she should stop taking her pills because she's in tune to important things that the rest of us aren't. He says we should listen to her. I wonder how that plot point will reverberate out in the world. Are kids going to pick up on it and resist taking their medication? Think it'll be an issue? The Danny and Clara story moves forward when Danny rejects taking a ride in the TARDIS to watch the big climax. Rather than flying off to see some new wonder, he wants to see what's right in front of him more clearly. This feels like a story finding its way to an ending, but we're not there yet. Danny has asked Clara to give him an answer, tell him about her intentions with regard to the doctor. We will need to hear her answer. Missy's story is cranking along. We're going to find out what that's all about in the finale. There's so much speculation about who she is. Is she another Time Lord? Is she the Master? Some other surviving Gallifreyan? Well, I think I know the answer. Here's the Missy story. Spoiler. She's a BBC programming executive. She watches the episodes along with us, and then she sends notes to Moffat and team. For instance, this week she thought the ending was surprising. Last week she congratulated herself on casting Clara. Early in the season, when characters were killed, the actors would go to her office to pick up their checks. It all fits. You watch the finale. I know I'm right on this one. That's who Missy is. Because let's face it, when you work in television, what is scarier than a programming executive? Answer, the overnights, the ratings. The doctor's story showed a happy symmetry. Back in Kill the Moon, when Clara chided him for being aloof and cold, she reminded him that he walks our earth and breathes our air. And in this episode, he quotes those lines back to her as he accepts his role as a guardian of our corner of the galaxy. One last question. Is there praise in the world enough for what Peter Capaldi is doing as the doctor? He has it down now. Best thing Moffat has ever done, casting him. DVD extras. I hate to bring this up because so much of this episode works so well, but the missing sister story just sort of dangles like a stub article in Wikipedia. Maebh began manifesting her oddness when her older sister Annabel ran off a year earlier, and then at the end, Annabel shows up. She was hiding in a bush, then evaporates with sparkles. What was that? It feels like the remnant of a much fuller story that just got edged out. I have a theory about this. The writer of the episode submits a full script about the monster of the week, and then Moffat cuts about 5 pages so he can make room for some of the long series, long arc stories. The Annabel story was probably really well worked out and probably very interesting, but we will never know. The title comes from this poem by William Blake, The Tiger, one of the most popular poems in our language. And what do you know? Spoiler, there's a tiger in the episode. Well, here's a bonus extra for you. It's poetry time. Tiger, tiger, burning bright in the forests of the night, what immortal hand or eye could frame thy fearful symmetry? In what distant deeps or skies burnt the fire of thine eyes? On what wings dare he aspire? What the hand dare seize the fire? And what shoulder and what art could twist the sinews of thy heart? And when thy heart began to beat, what dread hand and what dread feet? What the hammer, what the chain? In what furnace was thy brain? What the anvil, what dread grasp dare its deadly terrors clasp? And when the stars threw down their spears and watered heaven with their tears, did he smile his work to see? Did he who made the lamb make thee? Tiger, tiger, burning bright in the forests of the night, what immortal hand or eye dare frame thy fearful symmetry? All right, here's a playlist of my other reviews of Series 8. You'll find them all there. And this is my friend Barry Aldridge's review of this episode. Barry is the one who tipped me about the issue with the pills. Very, very interesting issue. Bye now.